Hi, everybody. I am Jackie Cobb, and I am coming to you today with my good friends Audie and Regan. And we are going to talk to you about some fun topic called the holidays. Obviously, we're in the midst of them. We're all immersed in our holiday gatherings, or we've had our Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so now we're going to kind of talk to you a little bit about recovery and maybe just some ways that could you plan for next year and have a better holiday season, or maybe you had a good one, but you've got some recovery to do because this year you maybe celebrated a little too much. And so we want to help you with that. And I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves so I can make sure that you share with us exactly what you want us to know about you. And I will start with Reagan.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Hi. Thank you for having me, Jackie.
thank you for
Um,
being here.
yeah, so I have been a life coach for this is my fourth year, and I help God-loving women become more disciplined and peaceful. Big emphasis on peace for all of my clients, but without pushing harder and adding more to our plates. So I was formerly a fitness trainer and I wasn't trained in life coaching. And so, a lot of behavioral changes for nutrition and weight loss are pushing harder and adding more things to your plate. And it just doesn't work. No pun intended there on the plate. But but it doesn't work. And so I learned all of these new skills to actually lessen your load, increase your skills, and to feel a lot more peace about what you're doing. And that is what I love to help women with now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
And
I'll
Audie.
go ahead and go. My name's Audie Gonzalez. I am a trauma coach and I love to help women like myself who kind of grew up in an unskilled environment. When you grow up in an unskilled environment, you often find yourself struggling with wounds that you don't know how to heal. And so I love to help women heal. It's one of my favorite things to do. I prefer to work with women alongside a therapist that are just walking on different journeys. And like I said, the being trauma informed is a big aspect of that. I think we need more of that in this world. And so that's where my main focus is. And yeah, thank you again, Jackie, for having us. I think it's gonna be really awesome.
Yes, I am looking forward to a great conversation today. So we were talking before we started recording for y'all and just kind of getting to know each other a little bit more and just where we are in our thought processes. And I love how the Holy Spirit just comes to us and helps us to focus our conversation. And so I guess we can start because this is dropping after Christmas. But for us Catholics, there's still that 12 days of Christmas afterwards. So, you know, we might still be celebrating my holiday decorations stay up until at least Epiphany. But yeah, the gatherings so far. Um, I don't know if do you have any personal experiences that you want to start out with, like sharing with us that, maybe something that you found has been helpful during this season or anything like that?
Yeah, I think a great place to start this conversation is with the just kind of pausing for a minute and letting whatever we're feeling come to the surface, especially right after the holidays. For me personally, 2 years ago, I came home from Christmas. My husband and I came home, and our kids were, oh gosh, they were so emotional and all over the place. They were angry and just kind of lashing out. And we felt the same way inside. And we drove 6 hours home and we all went into our green belt for a long hike. And we were just hiking with our dogs and walking and decompressing and getting dirty, and just kind of like getting out of the car and the craziness. And that's when we realized like we don't want to do Christmas like this again. Like we abandoned who we are, we abandoned our boundaries, we abandoned our beliefs, and not in like a really intense way. Like we didn't abandon our faith, but we just let everyone dictate our entire Christmas.
Mm.
And we didn't hold true or fast to anything that we needed. And our kids felt the weight of that. And it really slammed them. And it slammed us too, but we saw it through them and we finally cared enough to make a change for them. And so that was the time we were like, you know what, we're gonna do something different. We're gonna start right now. It's right after Christmas. It was like December 27th. We're like, we're not doing this. What do you want to do next year? What did you like and not like about this Christmas? What do we want to change? What hurt? And so some things that I hear from clients a lot are, this one I hear a lot is like, I was by the Christmas tree and everybody was opening their presents and it was a little intense. And so I had one mimosa and then I had two mimosas and I had three mimosas and I just overdrank because the people around me were stressing me out and I didn't know what to do about it. And the other big pain point I hear is, I stayed on my phone a lot and I just scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and I purchased way too much stuff. I overspent because again, I was having a lot of emotions. I didn't know what to do with it. And so I got on my phone and I just pushed purchase. And
Yes.
then the last one that's pretty common is overeating. And that's the one I struggle with. So if I'm really stressed out, I'm going to turn to food and go, okay, I don't want to feel the weight of this family or the weight of this drama or the weight of that one mean person that keeps saying rude stuff about me at the table, or that the kids who are bullying my kids, but I can't say anything because then that family member is going to get angry or whatever the pressure is. And so then I turn to food. And so I want to guess start it with what is kind of nagging at you this Christmas? What kind of hurt? And then what did you turn to?
Those are beautiful questions. I know one of them I would love to share too is just that I can relate to that eating when you feel stressed and everything, because a lot of times I would stuff my words by stuffing food because
Mhm.
like you said, you want to respond, you don't know what but you don't have the skills to respond in an appropriate manner that says, this is my boundary, but I'm respectful in the way that I do it. Cause usually that comes out in an emotional way, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I love that you have that ability to coach women to be able to do that processing. And one of the things that, we talked about before we came on here was to just, you don't think about this, but start earlier in the year planning out that, like, start now planning next holiday while it's all fresh in your mind, because you might forget 6 months from now how Uncle Ed said something, that really triggered a response in you. Or, you drove, like you said, those 6 hours and you just said, next year you forget and you forget to tell everybody, hey, we're doing something different this year. And then you're stuck driving those 6 hours again, or you feel like you're obligated to do that. What a beautiful gift to yourself to give right now, to just think about what happened this holiday. Like, the way you guys did that after, it was so beautiful to, if you're a journaler, I am sometimes I'm not, to just write down, even do it now, like pause our podcast and, write down what happened this year that was good, what happened that might want to change or something. And that would really help with the skill of being able to set yourself up for a beautiful holiday season next year if this one didn't quite go the way you wanted it to. So I love those ideas. Thank you.
Yeah, I can share a little bit about mine. My husband and I, like, we had this idea. This was this time last year. My husband and I had like this idea of the holiday that we wanted, and I've been a coach now for a couple of years, and so these were practices we were implementing in our lives. And we showed up, and we just had some unexpected things, even though we had already planned. And so I'm like, I want to touch on that because I feel like that happens often. Mine were a little bit extreme. My parents separated in like November. And then we had like this whole Christmas gathering that kind of happened in December that was not, it shouldn't have happened. It was very stressful. But we found ourselves doing a similar, like, it was a 6 or 7 hour drive. And as we're driving back, we're like, we're never doing that again. Like, we're just not ever doing that again. And we're trying to find our own, like, our own standards. I grew up where the holidays weren't necessarily this big thing, but then like our family, like my family of origin suffered this like severed tie. And so there was like people kind of like scrambling to try to like put something together, but it didn't feel like anything we had ever done before. And then we come back home, and my husband's family, who lives in the same town as we do, was they're very traditional. They're very like, let's all stay together like for like 3 days and like do all these things together. And so it's just like we have like one extreme and another extreme, and then boom, surprise. And so something that I think that I learned, and something we're not doing this year, is very much being number one, intentional. And number two, like truly understanding, like taking a step back and being like, okay, what do I want this Christmas? Like, what do I want? Where do I feel like I'm called? Um, and so I know that those surprises can happen because just like you said, Jackie, it's like we need to plan in advance for like to be sideswiped. Um, but at that same time, there's only so much planning you can do. Maybe you are going to have an implosion, but how are you going to love yourself after that?
Good point. Yeah, I really
Well,
love.
and what's coming up for me too, Audie, and I don't, not everybody will feel this, but this is what I hear a lot from my clients and myself, because we're similar, is maybe I had December 27th of 2 years ago to start planning the next Christmas, but I needed all 12 months to get the courage up to tell my family
Yes,
no.
yes,
Oh, heck yeah.
yeah.
And it was so funny because I planned it, we designed it, we strengthened ourselves, we grew in our own communication skills. How can we gently but firmly say, we're going to change plans this year and be more intentional with how we spend our Christmas, knowing that there's going to be backlash. And it was so funny because we planned it, and maybe this is why we're having this talk after Christmas, right? We planned this, we communicated it early on, like 3 times. And then no kidding, guys, it was like 4 days before Christmas that I had a family member reach out and start just attacking me. Y'all aren't coming? This, just one thing, and the text came rapid fire. And Audie, I think we talked about it because I was just going, I cannot believe that this family member did not soak in the information that we were not coming until 4 days before Christmas. Like,
Mm.
what have they been doing this entire year? I spent a whole year planning this, and it just didn't hit her. And I was thinking, I think that's common for all of us. I don't want to blame her. I think it's really common for us to go, I'm not going to think about it until it's here, and then it's going to create a lot of stress for me and my family and my kids. And so I think it's just so good for us to process right after the season, like you were saying, because you remember how long that drive was and how painful those words were, or how you tried to say something about, something authentic and you got slammed or whatever it was. And then you get to decide, like, how do I want to interact moving forward, and how can I be more intentional? And
Yeah,
that's going to look different for everybody. It's not going to be cutting off. Like for me, we just said we're not going to travel there. But that doesn't mean we're not spending time with the family. It doesn't mean we're not looking for other ways to spend time together and sending those presents and all of that. So I think it's going to look different for everybody. But that intentionality we've got to do it at some point. And I think right after the holidays is a great time to do it.
I agree. I think that's probably something that, I've learned gradually over the last couple of years as a coach because, before I didn't have that skill to do that. And I wouldn't remember, we all have short-term memories sometimes about some of especially about bad things, we always try to put those to the side and not remember them too much. Because yeah, I mean, there's a lot of toxicity, but then there's also that like some people just don't have the skills that, and
Mhm.
we as coaches have learned that we have these skills. But even then, like I found myself this past holiday season still going, oh, wait, I need to pivot right now because I am going back to the old me and doing the things that I've done. And so, I think that that's an important thing too, is to give yourself that grace to say, oh, okay, I'm still working on it. We're progress or work in progress, right? Never perfection. And so, I think that that's another reason why thinking about this ahead of time, and like you said, like you aren't necessarily going to be able to plan ahead for, January through November of next year to have it all well and done. But what's really good to plan is how are you going to respond if anything does happen? How are you going to handle it? Because your reaction is really all you can control, right? So how am I going to react to those things that happen, like Audie was telling us? And, because I can put aside, like I was telling you guys, one year I finally decided I'm not going into debt anymore at Christmas. We are going to put aside, just a little bit of money each paycheck and for the entire year. And I start in January and I allow myself to spend every dime of it if I choose to, or maybe I get to carry it over. I've yet to carry it over. I have older kids and they want expensive So, but I can provide, but I also pay for the food out of that and everything else because, those are the little things you don't think about. That Thanksgiving turkey goes up every year, does it not? But also the family behaviors, do they change? If people are not actively trying to change themselves, then they're probably going to be the same person next year that they were this year. So if you're working on yourself, recognizing that you can handle, you know, other people's thoughts, comments, whatever they say or do, and you're able to change your reaction to that. What a beautiful gift to give yourself also, because you've got that whole year to work on, like you were saying, Regan, sorry, the communication, working on how to communicate those boundaries and how to express, in a gentle and loving way, if that's, the family dynamic, or a more direct approach if that's the family, however people receive things well, then being able to say that, sometimes it takes a while to work on those skills before you can gather the courage to actually do that. So
I love that. You're saying if I'm going to save money because I know Christmas is coming, why don't I process some of my emotions and prepare what I want and don't want for this next Christmas?
yes.
I love that. And I made a joke beforehand about some of us women are surprised when our cycle comes every month. We're like, why am I so emotional? Why am I moody? Why am I craving chocolate? Oh, there it is. And it's every 30 days. I mean,
Oh,
give or take. And that's kind of how we treat Christmas. We're like, I cannot believe this hit me, and this emotional part just hit me so hard again.
mhm.
But we can do things.
Yeah.
We can really do things to support that.
Yeah, and Audie, you were telling us, speaking of the emotional aspect of it, like that expectations over the holidays, like you have certain ideas of what you want those holidays to look like, and then boom, something happens and derails all of them. And you had a
Yeah.
beautiful thought with that. Can you share that with us?
I would love to. I've heard this from, it personally happened to me, and like I'll share my experience, but it's also been something I've heard from maybe three or four other people, just over the last like week. My experience with these expectations were, to give you guys a little background, like the reason why I'm a trauma coach is because I've been through some things as well. And so my mental health has not been in the best place, specifically around the holidays. And Reagan, like you say, it's like, for me, it would be just like that. It would bubble up, and it's just like, why am I feeling all these emotions? And it's like, because it's Christmas and there's wounds and you're having a hard time. And so the last few Advent seasons, like I want to say 2 years ago, I'm not even sure we went to Mass once during Advent. And then last year we had a 1.5-year-old that would not stay quiet during Mass. And it was one of those things where it's like we made it a couple of times, but we didn't go the whole way. So my child is now 2.5. I'm currently pregnant. My husband and I are in a great place. And so I was so excited for Advent this year. And I was like, we're gonna go every Sunday. And I was like, maybe we can even go more. Like I was just like, I had like this whole expectation in my head of like this is gonna be great. And so first Sunday of Advent comes around, and the night before, Saturday night, we start feeling sick. Um, and and we woke up Sunday morning, and I was like, we're not going to church today. Like it's not gonna happen. And we're laying there, the three of us spent the whole entire day in bed, and we watched movies and we drank hot teas, and we like focused on healing ourselves. And I chose in that moment, I had the tools this time. It's like either I can guilt myself for not going to mass and being like, oh, you haven't grown, and it's just like every other year, and destroy myself with shame. Or I can sit here and I can choose to receive what God is trying to give me in the season. And if there's anything that I've learned over the last couple of weeks, and that the repeat message is number one, patience. And number two, God fulfills on his promises. Reagan and we talked about that in one of our Rising Tide Fellowship meetings earlier this week. And the third thing is, why am I forcing stuff? Like,
Mm.
why don't I just sit and receive? Like, what is like, let him, this is my first Sunday of Advent. Like, I'm supposed to sit here and receive this. And it was so hard for like the first couple of hours because I kept thinking, I was like, I've got to fight it or I've got to do more. I've got to figure something out. And like that just didn't happen. And there was nothing for me to figure out. And you know what we ended up doing that night is I had my little Advent wreath and we came out and we lit the first candle. And my 2.5-year-old's getting close to figuring out how to say a Hail Mary. And so we said a Hail Mary, and that was it. That's what we did the first Sunday of Advent. We went to bed at like 8:30. It was great. And that next day we woke up not feeling great, but we just it continued there. And so I think it's funny because I that was my personal story, but I've heard the same thing from a handful of other people. And then we a client of mine had mentioned that she was trying to force this one situation to continue happening in this Christmas. She had this idea and she was like, I want this. Like, I need these people. I need to be surrounded by community. I need these things. I need these things. I need these things. And like nothing was working out for her. And so she had ended up reframing it and was like, why do I need these things? Like, why does this make
Mm,
it Christmas? You know, like why is this going to give me why do I need it so bad? And so being able to reframe that and see like what does God actually want me to learn from this? Like, is it supposed to be quiet time with my family? Like, am I supposed to like make this special in a different way rather than needing like these community connections that like I just feel like I desperately need? And so I just again, those are just a couple of examples. Um, because I feel like continue to run into that where we're like, we're going to set expectations for giant Christmas and big gifts and all these other things. And then when it comes crashing down and we feel awful about it, we just sit in it and we're like, yay, Christmas. We get to go do it again next year.
it
Yes.
is so anticlimactic.
Mhm.
I think I've shared with
Yeah.
Audie before that when I was like 24, maybe 22, 23, I went home for Christmas and it was so anticlimactic like you're describing because all the movies show like this climax, like the even like the little like Mickey Mouse Disney stuff makes it look like Christmas is magic. And you're gonna have this like amazing bodily, physiologically like truly the word is climactic because it's like this feeling at Christmas, and sometimes it just doesn't come, and
Yeah.
it just doesn't happen. And I remember feeling that so disappointed that I just went to the Adoration Chapel on Christmas Day, and I was just like, sorry, God, like I don't even feel anything right now.
Mm.
And I think it's like, now as coaches, and I hope that our listeners are get some love from this, but no matter what the circumstances, if it's disappointment, if it's trying to force the experience that and the expectations, if it's my daughter brought in my husband and daughter went shopping for a new cross or a star for the top of our tree, and I hated it. I saw it last night and I just bit my tongue and I just like I hated it so much. I wanted to control that so much. So like whatever the expectation is, going back and doing what Audie said and just like feeling it for a second and
Mm.
just accepting it instead of trying to say, why am I doing this? This is wrong, or what's going on here? Just feeling it like, oh. So for my example with the ugly like light up like Elsa style star they brought home for my beautiful tree last night. I'm not kidding, guys, it flashes. It flashes like blue light. Um, but so what I did, I'm rocking my child. I haven't slept very well. I'm hormonal. I'd had a baby 3 weeks ago. And I just sit there and I'm like, why? Okay, just breathe. Instead of asking why, I have to coach myself. Don't ask why, just breathe. What are you feeling? I was like, I feel like controlling this tree. I want to control every aspect of this tree. Where are you feeling it? Mid back. My mid back is so tight. I just want to just control it and just tell everybody like that stuff is ugly. Bro, my husband, could you not do one thing for the tree, right? That's what I wanted to say. And I'm just breathing and I'm rocking my child and just feeling it, just feeling the anger. And what it does, it turns into tears. And I just start crying right there. My kids are watching Star Wars and nobody notices. I'm just sitting there crying in the chair. And all it was just, I needed a little love. Like that's all it was. I needed my husband to come over and give me a hug. I needed someone to say, we see that you haven't slept very much in a few days. And the tree, it didn't have anything to do with the tree, right? So I got to feel that and just rock. And I got to tell my husband, hey, I'm feeling super emotional. Can you come and like love on me a little bit? And so he puts his hand on that mid back part, that's all like tense and it's knotted up. And in 3 minutes, I feel so much better. I've cried, I've felt it, I've released, I've told someone I need support. I got the support. And then, so like 2 hours later, I said, in a place of peace, I was able to say, I don't know how I feel about that star, you guys. Well, do y'all like the star? It doesn't really match the rest of the tree. And they both were like, yeah, we don't like it either, but we didn't want to say anything because it's expensive. And so I was like, I wonder if we could put that star like in our window, like in the entryway, and we could do like something more golden. And they're like, that's a good idea. Let's, but it transformed from like, I want to snap my kid's head right now for buying this stupid star to like, what do you guys think? And it was just from feeling. And so I don't know, I want to offer that for whatever your expectations are, whatever you're forcing. Like Audie said, why am I forcing this? What do I need? What if I just stopped and received the nurturing that I need in whatever form that is?
Mm. I love hearing that because one of the things that crossed my mind is what a beautiful gift you gave yourself to put into words what you needed. Because is that not something that us women struggle with so much, is to be vulnerable, especially with our husbands, like the person we should be most vulnerable with, and to just ask for what we need, and feel those emotions. I think we tend to like try to hide them or keep them, kind of pushed down. And, I like to say I give myself 5 minutes for a pity party. I can cry,
Mhm.
I can, like, feel all the feelings, but then I need to find a solution. And your solution was to be vulnerable and ask for what you needed in that moment, and look how it just, like, completely freed you from whatever you were feeling to be able to find a solution for that. And what a beautiful gift. Thank you for sharing that. I love it.
That reminds
Mhm.
me, Reagan, your story reminds me, the first part of it, reminds me of, what is it in The Office when Michael, basically he's throwing the Christmas party for Holly, you were talking about setting the expectations and just not like reaching the climax, right? And anyway, things fall apart and he goes, "Wow, Jesus, sorry, your party's so lame." And like that's what it feels like. And I was like, it totally feels like I'm like so sorry I couldn't do anything big and spectacular for you. But we forget the whole point of Christmas is that he did something big and spectacular for us.
Right.
And we're called to receive that piece. But I'm sorry, I'm such an Office fan, and that always comes back in. I was just like, I have to throw this in here because that's exactly what Michael did.
It
Don't be
fits
Michael Scott.
perfectly. It fits so
Perfectly,
perfectly.
yeah.
Wow, Jesus,
I
sorry, you're
love
very
when you
silly.
really, and it's so relatable because I'm probably the only person in the world who hasn't watched The Office. I know, I'm, like, totally gonna get on that this weekend, don't worry. We're
You can design your own Christmas, Jackie. You don't have to meet our
But
expectations.
now I really want to go watch it because everybody uses references from it, and they're so funny, and I'm like, "How did I miss this?" I love funny, like, I like to be funny, so that's beautiful. Well, I think that's a great segue into, just kind of wrapping things up for today. But I do want to share, because you shared, Reagan, that you have Holiday Harmony, a course, a mini course. Is that what it is?
Yes, yes. Oh, we'll put the link in the show notes.
Yeah.
But I just have this little 5-part training. It's a mini course that's not very long for women to take. It's just 5 parts, and it's just to allow you to go through everything we talked about today. Because we're
Mhm.
talking about like designing what you want and don't want for Christmas, but you really, it's got like a couple of questions to get you thinking, like, um, does overcommitting lead me to true generosity, joy, and deeper connection? Or does it lead to resentment and frustration? And it just gets us like thinking, and then it moves us to design. Okay, now that I know my overcommitment is not fruitful, how do I want to design my holiday? And then we go into managing criticism and managing our emotions that you talked about today, really feeling those, how to do that. Releasing the pressure of the emotion, which is pretty, we just kind of broke that down with an example. And then preparing your script. So knowing, my high tide group that I coached on Wednesday, we prepared our scripts for like when that aunt says something direct about your weight, you get to say, you have the script in your head. When that mom, I had a one example, I know my mom is going to play the victim, is what someone said. I know she's going to act like I'm a bad person and poor pitiful me, and I'm ready for that. What do I do? And so we prepared, okay, what truth of God's do you want to hear in your mind? What do you want to repeat to yourself when she's poking you? And she's like, I'm the victim and you're the bad guy. I'm the victim and you're the bad guy. What truth of God's are you going to say in your head that's going to help you move out of that situation instead of play the drama game with her? So that's all in this little 5-part course. It'd probably take you, a total of like 2.5 hours to finish this, and I would just break it up over 5 days. So that's there, and we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Oh, and it's $12, so it's super quick and easy and
Yeah,
cheap.
it's super affordable. Yes. And definitely, I will have both Audie and Reagan's information in the show notes, the description down below our video when we post it. And of course, I'm sure you guys will, share it with your people too. But you also have the Rising Tide Fellowship, which is super cool. I've been in there exploring all of your offerings, and those are really great too. So I am super excited to share with anyone who, especially, if you have something that you connected with Audie or Reagan or me, we're all coaches and we're here for accountability, because that's one of the hardest things, is to have that follow through. You can have the best intentions, especially, we're going to talk again in the future about, how do you like become that woman you want to be at Christmas time during the entire course of the year? Because January, we're all excited to do it, and about midway through, or maybe February timeframe, we all kind of go, it's taking longer than I wanted it to, or whatever the case may be. So I am definitely going to have these ladies back, because we're going to talk about that next time. So be prepared for that and check us out. So thank you, ladies, so much for being here today and all of your great conversation. I loved every minute of it. And we will see you again soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
I'm going to stop.